Kia ora, my name's Jamie. I'm part of the team at Taranaki Retreat, and the retreat is a space to breathe. So it's a place where people can connect through one of our residential or outreach support programs to get some support around them and their whānau. So cool stuff goes down here. We're at the retreat here today. The room that we're filming this in is our quiet space, our kind of chilling space. We operate on a holistic model of care that acknowledges the complex, beautiful, wonderful, intriguing amazingness of the person and their physical, mental and emotional, wider and whānau well-being is very, very interlinked. So the retreat through a lot of programs, some of which are like hands-on, making stuff with power tools and building things, arts-based therapeutic work where you can get messy with the paints, to traditional talk-based therapies, life coaching, grief support work, or sometimes people need some time out space and come and stay residentially and get some full focus support. There's a lot of pets around the site. We have goats and ducks, chooks, dogs, cats, rabbits, etc. So the pets are a part of the kaupapa of here, the time spent with the animals. It's a really beautiful, natural, rural setting, and the nature is as much, I think, a part of the healing as the people. So it's a peer-supported environment in which kind of we're just people alongside other people doing a bit of life together. The retreat wants to be there for whoever needs it at the time they need it, and sometimes that's quite an urgent situation, although it's a non-clinical community facility, so it's not our role to care for people who are dealing with acute mental health challenges, for example. There are other places where that's the kaupapa. So we're often beginning a long-term support journey with people, and we work with around about 1,000 whānau a year through the retreat overall. So the majority of those would be local, but we also support people from throughout Aotearoa and New Zealand, if it feels like the right connection. The only setup quite like this is Taranaki born and bred and and uniquely what it is. It's a really beautiful thing, and there's certainly nothing else quite like it. Certainly came from experiences that people had where there wasn't the right solution for their needs at the time. Perhaps it might have been that their whānau member or they themselves weren't classed as being ill enough in order to need or be suitable or feel right for clinical support, or there wasn't the capacity within clinical support services, or there was a really long waiting list, or it might be that things were really starting to go to custard, but it's hard to rock up to the hospital and say, hey, things are starting to go to custard. Oh, go to the starting to go to custard department. Not many hospitals have one of those. So I think there were some real tragic and terrible situations, the stories of which are woven into the retreat, where that kind of solution could have made a massive difference if it had been there, but it wasn't. And what we wanted to achieve out of those tragedies was that there was an option for future, so that people, we often heard the story that contained the words, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And there were a lot of us who kind of felt that way and were saying, oh, well, there should be this or there should be that. Well, actually, why don't we make that then? And as a family, we'd been through quite a major loss ourselves, and we'd known what it was to be supported through that and where the challenges sat. and we felt ourselves as a family really quite compelled to do something, to offer another option. Then we began building and fundraising, and here we are. Yeah, we at the retreat we reflect a lot around kind of stress cycles, where we get caught in a cycle and go round and round with our stress, and how we interrupt that process and escape from it. And every time that I sit down with people who are arriving and feeling very nervous about staying here, we'll talk about how we interrupt our stress cycles and how we find our mojo. And I always listen really attentively to what people suggest. And here we like to keep it really simple. So we think that a good day generally has 4 components in it, and those are really simple: good sleep and routine around that, good food, and good exercise and good social time, so that we're spending time around others, we're keeping the body nourished, we're using life's most awesome antidepressant there is, which is exercise, and that we're, being really attentive to those 4 things. And then we all have our ways of when we're feeling stressed, or when we know that our tank is running dry, that we push out of the stress cycle. So each of us has our own ways of doing that, and sometimes people will arrive and just when we ask that question will say, actually I don't even know how I get out of that cycle. So we'll try things like music, listening to music, playing music. The big outside is so healing. Around here we have the animals and the pets, and they're so de-stressing. For me, you just can't beat cooking. I think it's the coolest way there is to de-stress, is just to lay everything else aside and get cooking in the kitchen, and then have a big feed at the end of it. But most of all, it's just the family time. I'm blessed to have kids, and being around them is the most restorative and wholesome thing that there ever could be for me. I think there's really good evidence based learning around how whole communities are affected by trauma, disaster style trauma. So when something bigger than one person or one whānau is going on around us, so think like earthquake situation or bushfire situation, when the whole of a community or even the whole of a country or even the whole of a planet is affected by trauma. And we understand a little of how communities are affected by that and how emotionally we're impacted by that. And we could draw a bit of a graph that shows what that looks like in terms of where our emotional well-being is as a community. And as you kind of watch the news stories happening, you see that we're tracking in that process, and there are highs when we feel quite bonded together as a community, kind of we're all in this together. And there was quite a bit of that in moments in level 4 when we were kind of all in the same boat pretty much, and we were the whole team of 5 million thing was really resonating. Yeah, we've got this together. So it can really draw people together at that point. And then and then as time passes by and as we continue to work through trauma like that, there are also points where we're really at the bottom end of stuff, where we're feeling disconnected from each other potentially, because some people are doing well and other people are not doing so well. We can become caught up in a really quite deep grieving process that might involve some real sadness and depression, might involve quite a bit of anger, might involve 1,000 people getting together for a march and being all angry about it, just say. And we've certainly, as we've supported the community and continue to do so. We've seen where those real low points have been hit and where people have really been challenged by not just solely the material fallout of where businesses are failing and where people are without work and just struggling with extreme hardship. That's huge. And also where the emotional toll is hitting people, and where that toll is affecting also those within services, for example, within healthcare services, and those who are kind of caring for and didn't have the experience of a time away from the coalface because they were essential services. Yeah, I think it's proving to be challenging. Yeah, I think there was a lot of anxiety that was triggered around the coming out of lockdown experience, and we're certainly kind of continuing to see the knock-on effect of where that's affecting people at the moment and where relationships have been challenged. So some people had that halcyon time in lockdown where it was sweet, and others not so much. Yeah, I think a huge part of why we're here, why the retreat is here, why I'm here, is to address stigma around mental health. I think it's a hugely massive problem. It's huge for us as guys, because there's so much in our received wiring that that makes us feel incredibly embarrassed and humiliated to express what we've often been taught to see as weakness or weirdness, to the point that it's kind of like breaking our programming to do that. And I've certainly seen how that's shifting, and I reflect back from when I kind of began working in this area, maybe nearly 30 years ago, that it was quite a different arena then in terms of how people were judged, and how people were ostracised, and I can see how that's really beginning to change. It isn't anywhere near where I want to see it yet, but it's definitely on the change. Yeah. I think we probably need to be focused on good education at every level, across healthcare services, across educational services. We really need to reinvent culture and messaging there right from scratch and change culture. We need to learn that we are most helped by a trauma-informed approach to support. I think we should assume that trauma-informed care is something that's delivered as standard across the whole sector for our mental well-being, and that's certainly not the case at the moment. And physical facilities, but also approaches, don't provide the potential for us to work in a trauma-informed way in a lot of contexts. But if we carry trauma, and a lot of people do, then we can't begin to heal within a setting that doesn't provide a safe, trauma-informed environment. So we're not going to get any better. So that involves the people who are involved being educated and understanding and adopting a model of trauma-informed care. And that means always operating with the essentials of true bicultural, treaty, partnered approach across the board, of removing stigma and prejudice, of being perfectly equal in how we offer our services, so that Māori are really genuinely cared for, and the tikanga are respected and observed and heard. It means as well that we need to accept that change in our well-being isn't affected in general by short-term fixes, and we need to change an approach which is generally focused around quickly sorting us out and fixing us up and pushing us out the door. Addressing the kind of thinking I often encounter that some people have a mental health journey and some people don't have a mental health journey. We're all on just a simple scale of wellness physically. Sometimes we're on top of our game and we're fighting fit, and sometimes the body is fighting a virus or is full of aches and pains and isn't able to function as well as it is. But we seem to have fallen into a bit of a trap of thinking that in general our mental health problems kind of happen and we might have an incident, or we might just be fine for the whole of our life. But nobody will go throughout their entire life without catching a cold or getting the flu. And I don't really believe that any of us will get through our entire life without our mental well-being being rocky to one extent or another. And the sooner we kind of accept that and learn that, the sooner we'd move on from feeling that there was something big and unusual about having challenges in our mental well-being. It just simply is part of being human. Our minds get crook as well as our bodies get crook. And I've certainly found when things have been really tough for me and dark for me that I've needed to access support from other people. I've needed to relearn my coping skills and to rediscover what it is to be kind to myself. I've needed to accept the support and aroha and compassion of other people and let them into my life and accept my own vulnerability. And I've had to learn to listen to the guidance of my wise elders, my kaumātua, and the people who I look to guide me through. And I've known some really, really tough challenges, and I've really had to learn just to pace myself and not to try and rush to get better. I think the most important thing is that we kind of keep connecting up face to face with and not completely evolve our world into a digital way of being, that we still eyeball each other and we catch up around watering holes, and that we spend time physically in each other's presence so that, you know, we get the whole picture of a person and eyeball how well they're doing. And we can, you know, I sat down with somebody this morning and I could fully see that he was not at all well. But I'd spoken to him on the phone that morning and he told me he was fine, and I believed him. And he'd messaged me on online the night before and told me he was fine, and he told me he was fine in a way that was really convincing. But when we sat down together, I could immediately see that he was really not. And a lot of our communication and care has, especially now COVID, we think we can do everything online with Zoom, and even health support can go online and that will all be fine. It doesn't work, you know. We're really relational and we have to see each other's faces and bodies and check each other out. My response to that would be just totally to validate you as a fellow human being, I think honour you. I think those who've known what it is really to struggle with their mental well-being often have a deeper spirituality, a deeper level of empathy for other people, a kind of a deeper awareness of what it is to hang on there and survive. So ngā mihi, wherever we've gone on those journeys, we've had tough times, and I wish we put more into recognising that and less into awarding celebrities for doing their jobs when they're on films maybe, or singing. That would be my take. You're the real stars, the rock stars.